Today, I share with you my first ghost hunting event and what you should and should not look for in a ghost hunting team. Early on in my career, I wanted to expand my intuition so bad. If you're honing your intuition, if you're strengthening it or improving the intuitive flow, you know exactly what I mean. You kind of want to see how far you can go. You want more and more and more. And I was really hungry for that. I was already doing professional readings. I was already doing professional clearings, and that was wonderful. But in those situations, you're helping one individual. Typically, you're helping a living individual when it comes to readings, or sometimes a living individual when it comes to clearings, like clearing their property or their home. And you're really focused on helping that individual. I wanted to step into an arena, in addition to what I was already doing. I wanted to step into somewhere where I could just pick up anything and everything, not focused on any one particular person or one particular time period or one particular event. I wanted to go in and just see what would happen. So I figured the best place to do that was a ghost hunting team. Now, I did find a fantastic team that I worked with for a number of years. And I totally get that these recordings are all about ghosts or people too. We should respect spirits, humanize them, remember that they're people that need to go home. And while that can come off as possibly anti-ghost hunting, I am not anti-ghost hunting at all. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think it's exploring curiosity, stretching boundaries, exploring the possibilities, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. Just do it ethically, please. And this team did. And I worked with them for a number of years, and we always cleared the location before we left. We'd go in, we'd collect evidence, and it was always cleared. Anyone that was stuck there could go home. That's how I feel it should be done. Well, I'm looking for a ghost hunting team. Now, this is a number of years ago. Back then, ghost hunting teams weren't accepting a lot of mediums. We were still a little taboo in that area. Now, most ghost hunting teams have at least one medium on their team, but they were really anti-medium back then. But I found a handful of people, and we all got together and we went to go do a ghost hunt at a house. And this was my very first one. Didn't really have any protocols set up, and that would be very apparent very soon. But we went, and I thought, all right, well, let's see what happens. So we all showed up. These were people that I had met at the meetup group. Really nice people, really great people, very excited about the process. They brought cameras, audios, but the organization wasn't there. And actually that didn't bother me too bad, because I was there to clear and just to pick up anything and everything from the building. And I got there, and there was one male spirit in the building. And it took me a moment to locate him, I remember, because there was a lot of chaos. People were setting up cameras, and it was nighttime, and there was probably, I want to say 9 or 10 people there. So I was walking through, trying to focus, trying to center, and I eventually did. It was perfectly fine. Found a male that was stuck in the home. In essence, if I recall, I can't remember what his profession was. I think he was a baker, or something like that. And he just really believed that he was stuck in that home. There was reasons behind it. My memory isn't very strong. This is from a long time ago. I remember more of the antics than I do the conversation with the spirit that I met there. But he really believed he was stuck in the home. And the thing about being stuck in the in-between is that we don't have our physical body. What that means is that we have our spiritual body, which is our spirit, and we have our programming body, which is our human mind. So in essence, when you're in the in-between, especially when you're stuck in the in-between, you have really unlimited manifesting powers, because really the only difference between, here on earth and the in-between is a physical body. And that physical body really limits you from manifesting sometimes a lot of what you want to manifest. But the power of the mind becomes so strong in the in-between that many times what a spirit believes can be their reality in the in-between. I'll actually say that again, because it's a really important point for anyone that is doing this work. What a spirit believes in the in-between can very much become a reality for them in the in-between, simply due to the power of the mind and still holding on to that programming body. Now, this male spirit was stuck. He was middle-aged. I want to say he was, if I recall, he was maybe early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, something like that. And he was a baker, and he just really believed he couldn't leave the house. So I, eventually how I crossed him was that I walked to the front door with him, opened it, walked out, and said, I believe you can do this. Let's try this. And he came toward me and went, I can leave. And I was like, yes. And he said, thank you. And he crossed over. Now, let's back up about 30 minutes earlier. It got crazy at this ghost hunt. And I learned what I wanted out of a ghost hunting team and what I didn't want out of a ghost hunting team. So we showed up, of everyone that was there. And like I said, there was about 8 or 9 people there. Of everyone that was there was only me, and I recall one other person that had mediumship abilities that said, we are mediums. We're here to pick up this information. Everyone else said, we're not. We're ghost hunters. We're not mediums. When we got there, funny thing happened. Everyone turned into mediums. And they started to feed off of each other. And I call this a left brain feed. We have a right brain and a left brain. Intuition flows through the right brain. The left brain is the analytical brain that wants to tell you what it thinks and wants to create a reality that's not there. So I call this like a left brain, chaotic feeding moment where everyone was feeding off of each other. So these individuals who said they weren't mediums all of a sudden started to have mediumship experiences. Now, mind you, I was looking around and couldn't see any other spiritual activity that was around them that would have this. So I just kind of sat back and watched these living people go from focused on their cameras and their audios to all of a sudden they're getting just the most intricate, detailed communication. And they were, and then the hype, and it just got intense. Telling you, if a TV producer was there, they'd make a sitcom on it. It was really, really intense. One person said, oh, I think he was in the war, and someone else said, oh, and there's a murder, and oh yeah, I can see him too, and oh yeah, I can see him too. And the next thing you know, there's like 6 people in the middle of this room going back and forth about being able to, oh, and yes, he's tall, oh, I can see that too, yeah, and he's got a beard, yeah. And I don't even remember everything they were saying, but one person would say it and the rest of them would say, I see that too. And then and someone else would add, I see that too. And someone else would add it. And it was just this frenzy of imagination is what it was. And I know that they were picking up on the energy and the vibration and the location, but it was the left brain that was creating this story to match what they were energetically feeling. So if you ask me, well, did they not see anything or feel anything? I do believe they felt something, because when you walked into that house, you couldn't help but feel something. And I hadn't crossed the gentleman over yet. None of the energy in the house had been balanced yet. And so I do really believe that all of these people felt something, but to create it and to label it, and then for the next person to go, oh, okay, that person saw a man, so I'm going to see a man too. Yep, I see a man too. And it, in all my years of doing this work, it doesn't really work like that. It's not that 2 intuitives see the exact same thing, because everyone's intuition is so different, so unique. And it flows through you differently than it flows through anyone else. You're going to experience your intuition different than the person next to you, than the person next to you, and then that person next to you. You're all going to experience it differently. So when you do see a number of intuitives come together, when they're really synced in, when they're really focused, and it's not about the hype, you see a bunch of intuitives say, okay, well, it's coming through like this for me. And then somebody else will say, well, I'm seeing this and it's coming through like this. And sometimes it takes a little bit to connect those pieces. But in this situation, it was painting a picture. And once you paint the picture, everyone's left brain said, yep, I see it too. Heck, I could have seen it too, because everybody was, it was quite a vivid picture that was being painted. And then I kind of really knew that things had gone overboard when one individual who was there, who wasn't in this swirl of chaos of group mediumship, the individual came in, and I remember he sat down on a chair. This was a living man that came in. He was part of this whole group. He was one of the ghost hunters, and they weren't all connected. They were all from different groups and stuff. So it was kind of a hodgepodge of people. He was by himself from his group, came into the room, walked across the room and sat down in a chair. And one of the people in this, in this chaos of group mediumship turned and looked at him and yelled at him for sitting in the chair. "You can't sit there. You just sat on the spirit." Two other people turn around. "I see it. He just sat on the spirit." And I went, okay, I'm all set. I'm all set. Sitting on a spirit, I don't know, that just kind of crossed the line for me, that I was like, yeah, I can't go that far. So it was a lot of energy sensations in the home. A lot of people picked up on them. And what they did was they set down their camera. They set down the intent to get evidence. They dropped all ideas of getting any sort of proof. And they stood in the center of the room, and they all kind of fed off of that energy. And as a group, created a description of an individual. And, at one point, someone even got yelled at, like I said, for sitting on the spirit. Or as they said, "You sat on the ghost." I will never forget that. But it was interesting. Now, that gentleman that came in that wasn't, in the mix of all of the left brain, imagination feeding off of the energy in the room, that individual was the leader of the ghost hunting team that I eventually signed on with and worked with for a number of years. He was actually amazing, absolutely amazing. He had protocols. He was really firm about how things were done, because if you did get evidence, you had to show that you went through certain steps to get it. He was fantastic. And working with him and his team was great. I was able to really go into places and really push my intuition and see how much I could pick up. And I was around very professional people who knew what they were doing. They went in, they did a fantastic job. He has a ton of evidence to show for it. And he syncs all of the mics. As a medium, he wouldn't tell me the location until the evening of the event. They would show up at the location. Upon showing up, he would call me and say, "Come to this town. When you arrive in the town, call again, and then I'll tell you where it's at." So he would have me drive to the town, not even knowing the address. When I get to the town, he would give me the address. He would come out front sometimes and greet me. And it was just one more professional step to make sure that the medium doesn't, Google. Now, I can tell you that I would never do that, because I was going to try to see how much my intuition could get. And obviously, anytime you Google something, it gets in the way of everything, and then beautiful intuition doesn't work. But I loved the protocol. I loved that wasn't even an argument in the future, because that wasn't part of the process, telling me ahead of time the address. I loved it, loved everything about it. But there can be moments of feeding frenzies. When you get a lot of people together, they start to feel the energy, and it can tip in to moments of imagination going a little bit crazy, trying to paint a picture around what somebody is energetically feeling. Now, after he sat on the ghost, I think I was leaving the room at the time that happened, if I recall. I remember vaguely hearing it and being like, okay. I walked away, sat and meditated, connected with the male spirit that was in the home. And it was at that time that I started to talk to the male spirit that was stuck, to find out that he really, really believed that he couldn't leave the house. And so that's when him and I walked to the front door and walked through the front door, and I was able to help him cross over. It ended up being an okay night, because I was able to help the gentleman who thought he was stuck in the home. I was able to find the leader of a fantastic ghost hunting team. And I was also able to realize what I did not want when it came to ghost hunting. So overall, it was fun. No harm, no foul. Bunch of people excited about what they do. But sometimes it can get a little too much. What do they say? Too many cooks in the kitchen. And when it comes down to the bottom of it, bottom line, what's important? goes through people too.
This podcast is brought to you by the SAGE Method, the most comprehensive and down-to-earth intuitive development training available. Is this your year? Is it finally your time to increase your intuition, bring in more abundance, and experience the bliss you deserve? If yes, then join thousands of students across the world for a 7-week journey to uncover your natural, beautiful, and strong intuition. Visit us at thesagemethod.com for more information.